right, episode 121. Today, we're going to find out, real estate agents, why do we suck? We're going to get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
At episode 121 today, we are going to be talking about real estate agents. Why do we suck? And if this is your first time listening to the show, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a comment if you're watching live here on Facebook. Tag an agent, share this out. This will be a good show today, just like every other one.
I'm actually pumped about this one.
Yeah, and then go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, subscribe to that, download it, as well as go to our Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, and then go support our sponsors. There's a lot of rules that you got to follow. So
to listen to this show.
That's right. Go support our sponsors. If you're looking to grow with leverage, right? You want to scale your business and you want to bring in and hire help, but you're afraid that you can't afford that, right? So talk with Justin Nelson over at Sphere Rocket VA, sphererocketva.com. He can hook you up and show you how to scale and leverage out your business using virtual assistants. On average, it's about $3.50, $4 an hour. So you're going to want to connect with him, as well as connect with Mortgage Mike. Get that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. You don't know what that is yet, Kelderman.
I don't.
The Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. Like if you are an agent here in Texas, you're going to want to have him just stamp it down with that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. So go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com and ask him for every loan that he does. He will give you an autograph stamped loan approval.
We'll get him a whole bunch of stamps to sign.
What the hell's happened in the past 2 weeks since I was here last?
He's going to be a little. He's going to get a little moody if I tell this story, but we'll tell it anyway for the sake of the listeners.
He'll live. Fair enough. Yeah.
So yesterday I get a call from one of our agents who's very needy. Name is Nate. Maybe you know Nate Fisher. He was on the show.
Friend of the show.
You know, he loves the White Claws. And Nate calls me. He's got a deal. He's got a deal that's getting a little haywire. Not anybody's fault. It's out in the BFE area.
I know it well.
Yeah, right. So he's out in BFE area, and we're trying to get a survey done, right? And we're pretty much getting no response and offering a shit ton of money for this survey, and we're trying to find out, are we getting, we're right at that outside that third party financing. We've got some conditions that we need to close and clear up, and so he's like, do I tell my client to drop the $2,000 for this survey right now? I'm like, well, I don't know. Let's get with DeBacker on this and get with the underwriters. And there were some things going back and forth. And so DeBacker calls me and is just kind of walking me through it. But he had a couple of fireballs in the evening time.
This was later on.
This is later on in the evening. And he's referring to himself in third party and saying, this is not the Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. And I was like, look, dude, I love this. And we're going to get you in huge stamp now. From now on, you have to carry this around with you that just has the Mortgage Mike face on it and says approved. And he's just going to go stamping all around.
For some reason, I pictured as like a cheesy gold foil stamp.
Yes.
It was just like.
So DeBacker was telling me, he's like, I'm picturing this like a cheesy attorney commercial, like Ambulance Chaser. I'm like, we can make one.
We can make one of those.
Yes.
Dude.
I mean, who doesn't want to use what is it? Brian Longcar, the strong arm, or Jim Adler, the hammer,
the Texas hammer,
or what's the other one? The Texas Law Hawk.
The Law Hawk. That was the Fort Worth. That was the young guy. He went viral on that.
So look, if you're interested in seeing Mortgage Mike's stamp, go over to mortgagemikeoftexas.com and ask to send you a picture of his stamp of approval.
I was going to say this too, and this isn't supposed to be like a 10-minute long plug for the people who sponsor the show, but I will also say at the beginning of this, when we were talking about Justin, I was having a conversation in one of my referral groups the other day with like 10 other agents, and one of them was reaching, like, kind of just comment in the group like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a VA, kind of wondering, what they can do for me. And I was surprised literally every other agent in this referral group just started like mad shitting on VAs.
Oh no. So people were shitting on people on Facebook?
Yes, it was the worst,
man,
right?
I can't imagine.
But here's the thing is what I kind of sat back and watched everybody's, like what people were talking about. And they were right under the lens they were looking at. If you're looking for a VA to come in and make your phone calls for you, if you're looking for a VA to come in and do all the stuff that like is the skill position of this job, you are going to hate VAs, right? Because that's not, I'm not, and I know you're using them differently, but when we're talking about agents just hiring their first one.
No, exactly. And that's, and Justin, this is why I went with Justin originally.
Yeah.
Right. So Justin talks about this where he's like, look, how are you going to hire a virtual assistant? How are you going to hire anybody to do a job that you've never done?
Yeah.
Right. And then if you've never done that job, you have high expectations because you're hearing everyone else like, oh, I want you to go make calls for me. Okay. So what metric are you going to use? I don't know. Bring me back deals.
What are you going to say?
Well, even their client stuff, that's fine. But like what I was trying to tell these agents, like there's so many things that you're not doing in your business that a VA could be doing. Sending out birthday cards, sending out birthday like all these little things that help you connect with people. You're looking at it wrong. You're looking at your current list of tasks saying, what do I not want to be doing?
Yeah.
When you should be looking at it is how many things are not happening in my business on a day-to-day like basis that could be happening if I had some other set of hands that could just handle task-oriented shit.
Or how much more of the stuff that makes me money could I be doing if I wasn't doing all of X, Y? Like we tend, and this actually is a perfect segue on why real estate agents suck. We tend to think that we're the only ones that can do so much of what we do, which is just complete nonsense. The reality is your first hire, whether it's a VA, an admin, or whatever it is, needs to be doing most of the stuff that you think only you can do right now. The reality is there are very few things in your business that only you can do.
And we have that conversation all the time. And I'm coming off a week of kind of like talking about habits and how they lead to certain things and almost trying to minimize a bunch of the crap that you do. Right. But we as real estate agents, 100%, we do it in our daily lives too. I was just experiencing this with a personal assistant, right? Like trying to bring somebody on to handle all these things. And Brian was like, dude, he's like, that's the shit you should be doing. The person you need, it actually needs to be able to systematize these things that you can't, won't, and probably don't have the skill set to systematize. So you can go set your own goddamn doctor's appointments, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like I was looking at it completely wrong. And I think we do that with everything in our business, especially when we're hitting some of those first pain points of just being completely overwhelmed, right?
So, I mean, and actually that does lead into why do real estate agents suck, not just at habit, but in general of overall the business portion of this.
Yep.
And, we've got perceptions of how we want to run this. Like you had that perception of what you wanted that person to do. You looked at it all wrong. You at least were willing to have an open mind to this.
I've been wrong a lot, so I'm used to having to pivot my thoughts on things.
Well, at least you can admit it, right? That's the first step.
Yeah, that's the first step.
So from that is what I know that you talked about this yesterday in your team meeting, Brian. What were you having conversations about with really this is going to go towards the habits that we're having trouble building into our business and our lives.
To pull back the curtain on this podcast, we just come up with buzzwordy headlines because they get us more play. But when we talk about why real estate agents suck, the way this conversation
by the way,
really
this one's
started,
not getting us more play.
You know what? I think Facebook's changed their algorithms. Are we in jail? Are one of y'all in jail?
I mean, I'm constantly perpetually in a state of getting ready to get put in Facebook jail.
Yeah, I think one of y'all's shares just got us put in jail. We were at like way less viewership than normal. Regardless,
it could have been me.
Stuff lives on forever on the interwebs. Anyway, little camera movement there.
I'm in all the shots today. You guys just deal with me.
The way that we started talking about this is we were talking a little bit yesterday about just about habit building, right? And just when we bring it back to like why do real estate agents suck, I wanted to start this conversation with why do we suck at doing things consistently? Like we can talk about why any entrepreneur in any field kind of sucks at what they do sometimes. Usually it's lack of consistency. It's insecurity. It's a lot of resilience issues we have. It's not being able to get up when we get knocked down sometimes, right? I think the biggest thing for us though is we when it comes especially to habit building is we try to take on the world in our habit. But yes, it's just like we we're like a little kid at a water park that doesn't want to play on the kids part, but wants to go down like Geronimo, the 9,000 foot drop slide. And then like when he gets up there, he just chickens out and goes back home. Right. Like, or goes back down. You know what I mean? Like we take on this massive habit stack, and then we do it like, we're just like, we're going to implement this tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes, we're like, this seems really hard. I'm never doing this again. And that's why we end up sucking at things, because we don't put them in place one little step at a time. We see our growth opportunities as something that needs to come in one tidal wave, and then we never stick with them.
You need to be really clear too about what you want to come from these habits, because here's how this happens for real estate agents and entrepreneurs, right? They go to a coaching thing or they go to a seminar thing. They see somebody up on stage who appears to have their shit completely dialed in.
Mhm.
And then they're all of a sudden they're like, life-changing, waking up at 4:00 tomorrow. Right? Like, and I'm going to change all of these things. And the reality is, Adam said this at Project U, and he said it again on our call today. Like, and I posted it on my personal Facebook business page. Envy is like a really crazy thing. He used it in like the frame of Warren Buffett today, but he was talking about like, look, a lot of us would probably say we want Warren Buffett's money. But the thing about envy and the thing about like wanting what somebody else has when you're doing it kind of like from a shitty space is you better want everything they have. You better want to be 91 years old like Warren Buffett,
Sure.
right? Like, I'm not trading my life for Warren Buffett's life at any, because I don't want to be 91 freaking years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, but we tend to look at this, and I think this relates to habits in the same way. We tend to look at people's lives and take that snapshot of their life,
Yeah.
but we compare it to the entirety of ours.
We look at through a lens. We're like, we can keep everything else the same, but
So
just
we-
have that one characteristic.
Yeah,
they
so we're
have.
super badass agent on stage at something, and they're telling you how they did a social media thing, and they're telling you how they started investing and developing stuff, or they're telling you how they built a business or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, I want that. I'm gonna go do it. The reality is, if they were able to sit down, or you were able to fly on the wall in that whole process for them, you would see there were tons of spaces where their habits got out of whack. There were lots of places where they had to do one small thing and then built the other thing. We just see the end result and they're like, tomorrow I'm going to go change my entire life.
Yeah.
Right. And the waking up in the morning thing is the deal I always do it with.
Yeah.
Every single night I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and every single morning I'm like, nah. You know what I mean?
But why?
Because I don't care enough about getting up in the morning.
There's not enough return.
There's not enough return. And maybe there would be, maybe there wouldn't be. I don't think getting up early in the morning is necessarily means that you're going to be super successful, right? I think you can do a lot of stuff. You can be just as efficient at certain times of the day, right?
What is the Miracle Morning would disagree?
Well, and look, and
Elrod would be
and I
rolling
will
over
tell
in his
you,
grave right now.
He's not dead.
every successful
If he was dead, he would be.
almost
Sorry,
every really successful person that I know too will say that is the best time of day. I'm not like poo-pooing on. I'm also saying there are probably successful people who get up at 6:30 also.
For sure.
Right? Like, you don't need to get up at 4:00 in the morning to rule your day.
Right.
You know?
This is a great example though, because so to narrow this kind of back to what we're talking about, why real estate agents suck, or just why we suck in general, right? You want to know the reason people don't get up at 5:00 in the morning?
Because it's early as fuck.
It's actually not that early. Like,
It feels so early.
I was just like, man, I'm gonna get such down a rabbit hole. I won't, I promise. But like, time is a human invention. 5:00 is not early nor late. It's just 5:00. If you go to bed at 9, 5:00 isn't early at all, right?
That's true.
Oh man, you woo! Jesse just got so pumped. Manchester United scored. Tied the game in the 60th minute. Anyway, so the reason people don't go to at 5:00 is because no one ever, and this goes back to habit stacking rather than trying to take on the world at once. I have rarely, if ever, heard somebody who is talking about their journey and what they want to put in place say, I'm going to get up at 5:00 tomorrow, and that's the only thing I'm going to do tomorrow to grow in that regard. The reason we stop is because we go, not only am I getting up at 5:00 tomorrow, I am making myself a green tea, which I've never had before, but somebody in some book said that I need to drink that now.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm eating nothing but bell peppers for the rest of my life because I also heard that was amazing. I'm going to go to the gym for 4 hours, right? Like, we
You didn't
stack.
meditate, read a book, or journal in there.
Oh yeah, I
Brian.
forgot all that. I'm going to journal for 55 minutes, right? I'm gonna have my
The
whole
other Johnny.
calendar set up in 5-minute increments, right? And every 5 minutes, my alarm's going to go off, and I'm going to move on to the next task. I'm also going to become fluent in Latin in that time. Like, we stop getting up early because we've already tried to dogpile ourselves with the next 15 things that we're not quite there yet with. And so we're like, dude, 5 o'clock is fucking early. You know why 5 o'clock is early? Because it's really early to be doing all that shit.
Yeah.
I will tell you that right now. It's super early to be taking on the entire world the way that it should be, and the way that we can stop sucking. And I'm kind of living proof of this. I get up at 5 o'clock every day. You know what I do? I actually do sit and eat and drink tea, but I
But
like
do you
tea.
eat
But I
bell
always,
peppers?
but I always like tea.
He eats the shit out of bell peppers.
Yeah, you saw me. I was eating an orange one today. I eat them like apples.
Brian's bell pepper thing is a perfect example of how you try to copy somebody else's habits.
Yeah.
The last 2 times I went to Market Street, I have bought an orange and a red bell pepper, and they have turned into dust in my refrigerator.
Why? They're delicious.
Because I ain't got time to eat.
Sure
Right?
you
I got
do.
whatever my excuse is. That's my whole
Right.
point is, right? Like I keep trying to mimic his. I did the thing with avocado. I've thrown away more produce since Brian started eating healthy, trying to fucking be like Brian than I have in my whole life.
You just, I don't know. You need that little thing in your head that switches, and then you'll never eat poorly again.
They are delicious.
But what I'm trying to say is, I get up at 5:15 every morning, and sometimes, guys, I'll snitch on myself here. I watch Turning Point on Netflix.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's so good. It was about 9/11 and the Iraq War. It's a 5-part series. You should check it out. Regardless, what I'm saying is sometimes I don't feel like get up and journaling and taking on the world and going straight to like I got up at 5 today. I didn't go to the gym till like 7, right? I spent 2 hours on the couch just doing my Spanish lessons, hanging out, screwing around on Facebook a little bit, right? And I have that staple of my habits down. I always get up at 5. I don't always get up at 5 and do everything else in the world that the perfect person who writes the perfect book about getting up in the morning does.
But it's staying. You,
But
you've built the habit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm way more productive. Here's the deal. If I get up at 5 every day and only 70% of the time I get up at 5 and do all the shit that I'm supposed to do, I'm still doing it probably 100% more than somebody who's not getting up that early. So I've built that stuff over time. But even that, like, I built, one step at a time. There are times when I get up and I totally fail, but I've done it enough that I at least have that part down.
So on the onething.com blog, right? So it talks about why we are terrible at building new habits and what can you do about it. And so they said that there was a study released last year, so that would have been 2018 because this was written in 2019, found that when it comes to goal attainment, self-control doesn't necessarily factor into our success.
Ooh.
Instead, it's our ability to completely avoid temptations that keeps us on the right path, right? So then Canadian researchers found that having to exercise self-control in the face of temptation leads to depletion, which in turn leads to failure. So even when we make the right decisions, the situation still nicks away at our willpower and motivation, making us more susceptible to relapsing into our old way of doing things.
I love that so much. That is exactly what we talked about yesterday in our meeting is not the idea of I have to do this, and this. What's way more powerful for your ability to build consistent habits is not I have to do this, and this. It's I will refuse to do this, and this, right? Like we talk about this with our lead gen time. I'm like, look, I really don't give a shit what you do between the hours of 9 and 12. I would prefer that you lead gen. What I'm really more concerned with is that you make sure that you are doing one of two things during between the hours of 9 and 12. You're either lead generating for new business because that's what we've committed to on this team, or you are sitting there silently at your desk doing nothing else and feeling like an idiot because you should be saying no to everything else, right? If that makes sense, right? It's not about, oh, I've got a lead gen from 9 to 12 every day. Yeah, I think you should be. And the way to ensure that you do that is to make everything else off limits. The same with if your habit is, you want to build a better diet. It's not about what you eat. It's about what you don't eat, right? We are way less confused about what to eat than we are about what not to eat, right? I usually know if I pick something up, whether or not I should put it in my body or shove it into my face hole, right? People don't have a problem with figuring out what to eat. They have a problem with resisting the temptation to not eat shit they know for a fact is bad for them. So if you can start to say no to things, you stop sucking at stuff really fast.
The thing that everybody needs to realize with that too is like, even if you're doing the wrong thing, you're still following a model of habits, right? Like there's no way to avoid this thought process, right? If you're eating shitty food, if you're going to the same places, right? Like you're doing whatever the thing is that's causing you this mental stress, right? Like it's still a model for a habit that you're exercising in your life, right?
Yeah.
Like and it's making terrible. I did this today. I was on a call, a Zoom call with somebody I knew would talk to me about what I was eating. So I turned my camera off as I busted through McDonald's to get a double cheeseburger and a small French fry, because I knew, like, I went out of my way to do the wrong thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it is just as easy to go out of your way to do the right thing. We just don't want to, right?
That
Like,
is super true.
and then I think McDonald's is putting shit in their food that makes me keep coming back. But
it is
that's a
highly
whole other thing.
addictive, man. As somebody that doesn't put bad food in my body, I will still tell you that if I had a guilty pleasure, it would be McDonald's double cheese.
I get
They're
ragged on
good.
so bad for my love of McDonald's. I just don't care.
It's good, man. Was they up to like 10 billion burgers sold or whatever that Seinfeld joke is? They're pretty
on
good, man.
billions.
But that is true. Everybody already has a habit stack. It's just whether or not it's working for you or against you. It's like same thing when we talk about diet. Like, I don't want to go on a diet. Like, dude,
I'm
you're
already
already
on one.
you're already on one. It's just a shitty one. Like, everybody's on one.
You're eating food to stay alive. You're just choosing all the wrong foods.
So I'm trying to find it in here. So this is a book. If how-tos were enough, we would all be skinny, rich, and happy.
Oh, I like
and
that.
it talks about in here where you say, and I'm trying to find. All right, here it is. Actually, here it is. So you brought up yesterday in the team meeting that instead of saying that you have to do this, right? So it talks about in here, you're going to have a completely different experience when you start to say I choose to rather than I have to.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to go to the gym. Well, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
You know, I'm choosing to
Yeah.
do that. You know, I have to make my calls. No, you don't. I'm choosing to make my calls because I'm choosing
Yep.
to put myself in a position to win,
Yeah.
to take care of my family or to build a lifestyle that I'm envisioning. And right, so that's dead on.
I like that.
That's dead on to what you talked about yesterday. And the problem is we all, you know, in this book, they're also saying like, I have to go, you know, to church.
Yeah.
Again, you don't have to be religious. You're
Yeah.
choosing to actually go to church.
Yeah.
Right. You can everyone has choices to be made.
That's like
And so when we're not lead genning, we're choosing
right.
to say, my business is not that important. You know,
Yeah.
my you know, winning, you know, taking care of my family obviously is not that important. Because if it is, then we would choose to do our lead generation. We
He'll
would
call you
choose-
back, Lo.
Yeah, well, I'll call you right back. We choose to, you know, do our follow-ups instead of feeling it's a have to or a chore. Like it's easy.
I experience this every night when I'm about at minute 90 of scrolling through Facebook watch videos. And I'm like, I could have been in the last hour and a half, you know, how
Talk
much,
about the double cheeseburger of social media.
I mean,
Yeah.
dude, do you know how many times I sit there and I'm like, in the past 90 minutes, I could have learned anything else that would have been more useful
That's why you
other than watching some guy in the UK like get pissed off at his neighbor, right? Like
You
that's
need-
all it is.
go on
It's like
TikTok. then.
80%.
No,
of
I
TikTok-
can't.
watch time.
TikTok, you'll learn how to like clean a closet. You can.
Yeah, but you'll never go clean the fucking closet because you'll still be on TikTok.
TikToking all the time.
No, I'll tell people how to do it.
How captivating!
how-tos
How
were
captivating! Yeah.
Yeah.
How captivating does a video need to be to make you actually get off TikTok and go follow those instructions?
I'm not going to do it.
Well, that's
I'm choosing not to do it.
okay. Okay.
You know, so
we do this and everything. I choose to watch this podcast. Nice.
Thank you,
Thanks, Jaime.
Jamie. I
Jaime,
well
appreciate
played,
that.
well
Appreciate
played.
that.
yeah, I choose to watch this podcast.
But and here's the thing: is we do this with everything. We do this with our mindset too, right? Like I walked out Sunday morning expecting to go and have a cup of coffee and have a good day, and my truck had no rims and tires on.
That was bananas.
I love that because you turned that into a great content making.
And I
deal.
took 10 minutes. And here's the thing: is even when I saw it, I was just like, well,
Do you know part
that
of me?
doesn't fucking happen to people.
You know what? Part of me was jealous that happened to you because you went live and just took advantage of them. Like, why is no one stealing my rim?
Trust me, I talked to the insurance guy today. You don't want it to happen to you. It's
Eh.
insanely expensive.
$1,000 deductible.
I know, right? But my whole point being was like coming off of Project U and Adam, and whenever I refer to Adam on the show, I'm talking about Adam Hergenrother, the guy who leads Brian and I, but also, I think is I do Project U with and get a chance to like hear a lot of his really cool stuff. He was just talking about how like disturbances in your life, right? Like the disturbances we feel when we get frustrated, like almost like wavelengths, like the air around you changing, whatever energy you want to talk about feeling, right? And I was just very aware in that moment that I was like, I'm very grateful. I got a nice truck. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that I have something nice enough that I can enjoy. And I'm really grateful to be in a position where Michael Hogg came over and immediately balanced that truck on 2 jacks and got it on jack stands.
that's
Craziest
crazy.
thing I've ever seen, dude.
Yeah.
And my mom called me up and said, I don't need my car this week. You can take that. Like I all of a sudden was so grateful for all these things that happened based off these jackasses who I hope terrible things happen to them, right? Like who stole my rims. It was a choice because I will tell you, Matt 6 months ago would have flown off the handle and went, woe is me.
Sure.
But again, I was able to weather that storm because while my business hasn't been perfect, it's been better than it's been for the past couple of years. So the financial devastation of it wasn't huge, right? The mindset around it wasn't terrible because I've got people in my life. Like I chose a few different paths before that led me to making a better emotional decision in that moment. And then on top of it, you talk about little after effects. I chose to go live and turn it into an opportunity, right? Don't think when I don't get new rims on there, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Like there's all these things that come from the experiences we have. That would be sweet.
Spinners.
Take it back to late 90s, early 2000s.
Bro.
We just have all these choices every single day. And it's not just about your habits. It's about how you react to the things that happen in your life. And I feel like sometimes that is probably a more indicative of you being able to bring on the new habits. Because if you can master the mindset bullshit, you're a lot more liable to go out and be able to stack that new habit or do that thing that was
I don't
really
even know if
difficult
it's
before.
mastering because we're never mastering the minds,
True.
right? And
Yes.
and here and I'm going to tell you, this book has been one of the best books in terms of kind of making it easy to understand where even in something bad happen, right? You could blame the people that stole your tires and rims that then caused you to be in a bad mood. Well, but if you actually see it, you made a series of choices to go park in that garage that's not secure. And so we all
supposed to be secure.
Well, obviously it's not. They found
Obviously
the flaw,
it ain't.
right?
The
But-
apartment complex had a choice to close that fucking gate, and they decided not to.
Yes, right. And so there's everything that's involved. There's a series of micro ripple effects
Yes.
that we all make choices that we all have some responsibility of. And when we start to understand that we make choices, and even our choices when we don't think we're at fault, we still put ourselves in situations. So if you're saying, "Oh, I couldn't lead generate today because my rims are gone. I'm in a bad mood. I have to deal with this." You made a choice to allow that to then affect your business.
That is hilarious because I made it. I did not make this choice, but I will tell you that was the earliest I have been in the office in months. The one after effect that was I was like, I'm not going to let tomorrow be screwed. I came back from Project U with the intention of hitting the ground running on Monday. I haven't put a ton of time into my business in the past 6 weeks, right? I'm going to feel it in October, right? And I haven't done that. It would have been the perfect way to blow Monday off, right? My truck is currently, as we sit here, is still on jack stands in the exact same spot, right? Like the problem has not been solved.
Well, it's choosing to be on jack stands.
The truck made a choice to sit its happy ass on it. But since then, I've getting to the office early, right? I don't have Luke tomorrow. I'm going to be here even earlier tomorrow. I've got stuff to do, and I'm not going to allow that to derail me. Whereas if I wasn't motivated by the people in my life, or I didn't have the things going on that I had going on and some of the choice I made, I would sit at home and just be like, well, let's just wallow in this further, make it worse, right? Like lose money on top of the money you lost.
I love that idea, actually. Just the entire conversation around choices, just going back to what that book said, because when you bring it into I choose to rather than I have to, it creates a synergy between you and your vision, because no one ever says I have to about their ultimate vision, right? When you say what does your perfect life look like, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, right?
I
Like,
got to go on vacation 3 times.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you're like, my parents told me I had to go on vacation 3, or like God told me, or when, like no higher power or other influence in your life is telling you what your vision for your future needs to look like for the most part. So when you come up with what your future, your vision for your future self looks like, that is you choosing what you want your ultimate outcome to be. So then when you parlay that with things that you have to do, you're exonerating yourself. When you speak, and I will never say have to again. I get a lot from this podcast. Like, you don't have to go to the gym. You choose to go to the gym or you choose not to go to the gym. And those choices either directly or those choices either directly lead to or lead away from whatever your ultimate vision that you've also decided is your choice as well. If you want to have, let's just say 7% body fat or whatever, right? Like, you've got to make a choice as to whether or not you're going to eat well and go to the gym. Or, man, can you imagine this? Can you imagine if every day that you were supposed to do something for your business, like let's just say you're supposed to lead generate or do whatever, if instead of blowing it off, or every time you did choose to blow it off, instead of just making an excuse that you were too busy, you had to physically say out loud, I am choosing not to do this, even though I know that it is affecting my future self, my 70-year-old version of me in the mirror. That would like really get you in the feels.
So whether it's in business or personal, so let's take that 7%, right? And you're going to choose to get to the 7%. You're going to choose to eat better, right? You're going to choose to go to the gym and do all that. But if it talks about in this book as well. Again, this little easy to read. It's 140 pages. It's easy, right? They talk about in here visualization. Visual.
Yeah.
I want to see if you get this.
Visualization.
Nope.
Visualization.
There you go.
Yeah. Visualization is reproducing a picture in your mind of something you've seen, right? So it talks about it's a picture in your mind of something you've seen. So right now, look at the floor, then close your eyes and see the floor, right? So that's visualizing, right? So if you look at the floor right now, and then you close your eyes, and then you visualize that floor while your eyes are closed, you can still see it, right? And so they talk about imagination is creating a picture of something you have seen, of something you have never seen. So right where people struggle with is they don't visualize that they're going to be a 7% body fat. They don't visualize that they're having success in their business. So if they don't visualize it, they don't believe it is possible or real. And we talk about this in building wealth. And, if your goal, Matt, was to make $1 million a year net income, but you can't visualize what that looks like, what that's going to do for your family, for your life, how that's going to, have an impact on Luke's life. Well, your subconscious is like, dude, that's not going to fucking happen. Right? Because you're not even trying to picture what that is. And so you're just saying it. You're just saying it to say because you think that's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Right? But you're not buying into the bullshit. Your mind's smarter than that. You're what is it? Your mouth is writing checks that what your mind can't cash or whatever it is. What is it?
It's usually your ass can't cash. You use that when somebody's like,
we don't like to curse on this show.
Yeah. Do that. I've done this visualization technique with the floor, but I was mushrooms, and it felt like I could see through the floor.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit different.
So should we do a podcast live show?
Hell no! This was
on shrooms.
No, this was long ago. Shrooms left my life before I was 30, and I'm 42 now.
We did talk about after the show. We have to talk about bringing back the live events.
I would only do it.
Shroom
I'm actually kind of totally down to check that out, but I would only do it with like a guide.
Yes, you have to have a good guide.
I don't want to just do it with like a bunch of buddies who are drunk. That's the mistake.
No, you have to have a Sherpa.
A Sherpa.
A shroom Sherpa.
With he's got a walking stick.
Yeah, and a bag of money, so then I can visualize.
I struggle with this visualization thing too. Like I hear a lot of athletes talk about it, right? Like, this is how a lot of athletes talk about how they see themselves. They get turned down for something, then they visualize that like that loss or themselves winning, or they visualize themselves taking the game-winning shot or making a catch or whatever. I have to admit, this is something I really, really struggle with, and I think some of it is because my limiting belief, some of just the personal stuff that I deal with too. It keeps me from thinking that there's bigger things available for me. Yep. So my mind just doesn't even wrap itself around like visualizing certain things. But then I also have to admit, I've done this so many times in my life with things that I want to do, right? And that's where I think it comes back to this choosing and knowing and being very, very clear with yourself on what you even want. And it doesn't need to be somebody else's thing. You can't visualize somebody else's life for yourself. And that's what we're usually trying to do. We're usually trying to visualize somebody else's version of their life because we don't understand our own.
I think you could.
You could visualize the things you want from their life.
You could visualize let's say a mentor, right? So let's say that you go to, let's say it's Adam, right? Because you just came back from there, spent time with him. You see the type of lifestyle he has. It's all visual there.
Sure.
Right? So can you come back and visualize that a certain lifestyle incorporating what he has.
Yes, because you come back from a place like that, and now I come back and I'm like, I need to own a place up here, right? Like now that's not like my whole life, but it's visualizing a step. It's something that I wanted. Okay, so now what action needs to happen for me to get to a point where I own a place up there, right? Like, and that's to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, that's what it feels like more to me is you're almost visualizing the one little thing, and then over time you look back and you're like, oh, I've got all these things, or I've had all these experiences.
But it's that or something that's tangible, right? So it's something of that. And it could also be the type of lifestyle, the freedom. Like, okay, like I didn't believe that this freedom was possible where I could run my business while traveling, once a month or twice a month for 365 days, right? A lot of real estate agents would say, I can't do that. Well, I'm sure there's other agents that have done it and figured it out using like Justin Nelson's from sphererocketva.com to get a virtual assistant. Great plug, right?
That's a good one.
But from that, figuring out, all right, you see someone else can do that, you visualize it, and you're like, all right, how does that work?
Yeah.
Or how does it work to sell one house a week, 52 homes a year, 100 homes? Or I want to have residual income coming in of X. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? What is that going to do for my family? Does that allow my spouse, my significant other, to be able to stay home and take care of our children and relieve that stress where maybe they have guilt because they're gone and not being able to experience, help them raise their kids and making an influence. And then from that, once you're visualizing all that, put it together, and now you're choosing to make a choice. Do you want to go down that path, which is you got to lead gen, right? You got to make your calls. You got to reach out to people that are buying, selling, or investing. Or you're going to say, fuck it, I don't really believe that's going to happen. And I'm going to choose not to. And I'm going to go on TikTok. I'm going to go on Facebook. I'm going to not wake up at 5 and learn Spanish.
I feel attacked right now.
Well, that's
Are you trying to learn Spanish?
That's all the other stuff.
at what point, because he made a good point earlier about the limiting of beliefs around this stuff. I think a lot of times we just choose not to in the moment do the things that would be necessary is because we don't actually believe we're capable of achieving certain things. Like, at what point did you feel like your vision for your life was actually attainable?
I'm not there yet.
How?
I don't feel like I'm there yet.
Well, you're definitely not there yet, right? Like, you want more, but I don't. You don't strike me as a person who has limiting beliefs about what you can accomplish.
Well, no, but here's what what the crazy thing is, how when reading this and how easy it is to get away from things. By the way, what I wanted to make a point how easy it was to get away from things. We didn't do a show 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah.
And when you get out of that routine, that next week it was just you and I. I'm like, well, Kelderman's not here. Are we actually doing a show? It felt weird to even think. And so it's easy to get out of routine, right? We let temptations creep in really, really, really fast. It's super simple.
Yep.
And so for us, if you go look at and we can even probably one day talk about building out what your Disney map or Disney vision is and share it up here.
Ooh,
but if I pull my Disney vision map that Austin and I did, I think back in 08 or 09, pretty much to a T, everything has come true. Because we wrote it down, it was there, and we knew we knew the goals and the bullseyes that we were working towards and working for. Now, our mouths were saying certain things like, I wanted private jet money. Yeah. But visually in my mind, I pictured, all right, we had a good home team. We had our investment company. We have ancillary holdings that was, turns out that it wasn't necessarily owning franchises. It was maybe the revenue share. It was now we just picked up another storage facility. It's all these things that are coming into play. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a version of what our Disney map or Disney vision looked like.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, I would first go and say, go write what you wanted down. I don't 100%. I thought it was kind of, you used the word, what did you say? Poo-poo earlier.
Yeah.
You're poo-pooing on something.
Yeah.
But I kind of was shitting on making a dream board. I'm like, dude, I don't want to fucking do a dream board.
Yeah.
But a Disney vision map to me sounds a lot more business-like. I'm like, all right, we'll do one of these.
Yeah. It's funny because I mean, just in the way that you said that, right? Like you have a version of your Disney board that you originally came up with 13 years ago or whatever. I think sometimes people would be, when we talk about bridging that gap between like our limiting beliefs around what we think we can achieve, which I think is something that really holds us back, and the gap between that and what we say we want our futures to look like, I think we just get so hyper specific when casting that vision around like certain dynamics and things we want and all that type of stuff. I would challenge anybody on here that who's never talked about or thought about or really sat down and put pen to paper or done any visualization exercises around what their future looks like. You should be so much more focused on how you want to live rather than like what you want to accomplish or what you want to have, if that makes sense, right? Because that's really what matters day in and day out, you know, like rather than, you know, I want to have this, and this, or I want to be a part of this, and this, like your vision for your future should be, you know, I want to spend X amount of time with these people in my life without the obligation to have to go do this when I don't want to, right? Like Gary Keller, I think was like put this best. I think he was the one that said, oh, you know, it's like having a great life is doing what you want with who you want when you want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, think of it in terms of that, you know, don't think of it in terms like you know, all my vision boards from the past, and I still do them every year. Like, there's too many things on there. I have like, you know, my gray 488 Italia on there. That's like matte gray that looks beautiful. And like, honestly, it's honestly not even that into cars anymore. And like, that was just like a representation of some elitism that I wanted. But the reality is all I really want to do is choose what my day looks like every day, and that's way more meaningful to me.
Yeah, and actually, I'm pulling it up right here. So we had in 2009, we called it Goods Homes Network, TGHT Worldwide, right? So
that was like pre-Step Brothers, and they're still calling it TGHT Worldwide.
And that's so cool. we had expansion groups, which we have expanded, right? So we had that, and everything that we tied into it talked about profitability. So profitability would then drive into Good Homes Long-Term Investment Group, right? So Goods Homes, and so from that became A&G, and then we had
Holdings, LLC.
and then we have A&G Development Group Worldwide, which was going to be kind of the flipping, the flipping business, which we hit. Then we had Profit and Growth Share thrown in there. So talking about at Keller Williams with that EXP that now goes into the revenue share side of things. We had Allied Business Ventures. So, you know, mortgages, insurance, property management, maybe coming soon to an announcement to you very quickly.
Maybe
possibly. Soon. Maybe you.
Absolutely.
You know, investors.
Quality
possibly.
Service.
Right. And so it's all in here. And so it was a very, what is it, rudimentary kind of just all right, we have this idea. Let's execute on what that looks like. And it was just 10,000, foot view, and we didn't get into the weeds. You know, you get into the weeds and you're like, well, what about this? You know, and then people get pissed that it didn't.
If we're a property management company, now we need to own 2 apartment complexes to support it.
Exactly.
Chill out, dude.
Yes. So I think that allows, and I think Brian and I were talking about doing what our Disney vision would look like. We were talking about this last year during COVID. Of if powerhouses came together, what would that look like? Yep. And so we were working on that just to see if, hey, maybe something sexy could come out of this, and then if 2 powerhouses collide, then we make a whole new world. And
that's one of my favorite Disney songs.
We just hop right on that magic carpet and float above everybody.
Yeah. Just don't ask Brian, because he makes you rub his lamp.
So much.
I think that's where we just slap the ender up and we just roll on out.
Well, make sure to support Mortgage Mike. Mortgage Mike of Texas. Get that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. He'll send you a photo of it. So, and then go leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and join our Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of.
I'm happy to be back with you guys.
Oh, yeah. Are you actually going to be back next week too?
Yes, I'll be back next week. I got a little bit of travels coming up recently. I'm spending some time in New York and travels. Like
Can
Gulliver.
I go?
Dude, you honestly should meet us in New York the last week of October.
Dude, I have a cousin doing Phantom of the Opera. I need to go up there.
Dude, I mean, like
What
we're
are you doing?
literally
Like,
going to be in there.
He's in Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, he's a big time.
We're going to be in New York City,
You've
whatever
told
the
me
hell,
about it.
like the 29th, 30th, and 31st.
Yeah.
Or come back on Sunday, Friday through Sunday. No, you
It's
get back
Halloween.
on Sunday. So you get back on Sunday and do it in time. Just get back at like 2 o'clock on Sunday. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and then you can go trick or treat.
Buy me a ticket. I'll go.
Deal. Bro,
Right.
don't say shit like that.
Mm.
Jesse
First-
and I are going in November.
Let's go.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Yesy. Get us out, baby.
Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. Then go to that one. Thanks.